Gardner. I represent House District 57, which is in the city of Atlanta. And today I stand with all of you and many of my colleagues who are still across the street voting on the budget to let you know how important we think this is. Last year, feels like a very long time ago, several of us introduced two constitutional resolutions to pay attention to creating a fair redistricting plan for Georgia. This legislation would prohibit districts from being drawn to favor political parties and incumbents, or to deny equal opportunity of racial or language minorities. I'm delighted that Chairman Johnny Caldwell has agreed finally to have a meeting so that we can begin the discussion and educate the populace about the importance of taking a look at reforming our process. There were two constitutional amendments, as you know. One set up a independent, I'm into the budget and trying to get back into redistricting, sorry. There we go. These people in this room know more about this than I do. He chose to allow us to look at the standards that we are going to use in our state, which are very loose, very narrow from the federal guidelines, and very loose in terms of how the committee comes up with drawing the maps. We need to thank him for being willing to help us educate the public, which is really our goal today. Every 10 years, as you know, there is a census, and in 2020, the census is going to be really important that we make sure everybody is counted, and that instead of a secretive way of dividing up into the districts, congressional districts, Senate districts, and House districts, we have a transparent process that is fair to all and represents everyone. I'm sorry, I've got conflicting things that I'm supposed to say here. What we all know is that Americans want elections to be fair. They want our votes to count, and all of our voices, not just some, but all of our voices to be heard. When partisan considerations dominate the process, that simply doesn't happen. You know, gerrymandering has been something that's been going on for a very long time. It's not illegal. What is different now? Why are we focusing on it now? And that is because partisan gerrymandering, which is quite an extreme form of gerrymandering, has put together districts that we think do not represent the people of our state. We know Georgians, Americans want elections to be fair. They want our votes to count. You know, most elections these days in Georgia are decided in the primary, which this year is in May. The general election in November usually has very few competitive districts. In fact, in this last election, out of 180 seats, there were only 5 that were truly competitive in the sense that either a Republican or a Democrat could win. I don't think that's reflective of our state. Do you? No. So it is time to reform this process. It's not going to happen this year. What we know is it's an issue all over the country. The U.S. Supreme Court is going to give us some guidance. We're all looking forward to that. I would just want to thank you again for being here. I know there are other members who wanted to come and speak today, but they're across the street. I'm delighted to have Representative David Dreyer here with me, who will say a few words and give you a little instructions. The purpose of this press conference was really to inform the public that the committee meeting with the experts from Common Cause and the ACLU and all the interested parties will be at 3 o'clock. It will be live streamed. So Representative Dreyer, would you like to say a few words?
Yes. Thank you, Secretary Gardner. Thank you for your leadership on this over several years.
It feels like many years.
Many
That's
years.
right.
Yeah, it is one of the founding principles of our country that we elect our elected officials. We're supposed to pick, as voters, who should be our elected officials. But with this partisan gerrymandering, the elected officials go in a room and pick who they want to vote for them. Okay, this has been going on for a long time, but you know what's worse about it now? Computer software. If you listen to the experts that tell you about this, they call it weaponized map drawing, because they can draw a map around individual voters. So they can pack a bunch of one party in one district, and they can spread out control of many other districts. And they know who's going to win. And like Representative Gardner said, there are so few competitive districts, but even on the ones that aren't competitive, people aren't running because of the way these maps are drawn. 83% of the state house districts last election had no general election opposition at all. People didn't even run. So what do you have then? You have people voting in primaries to decide who their elected representatives are, and that's typically about 10% of the people. So you have 10% of the most conservative or any other affiliation selecting who's in charge of our state house and our state senate, and then policy follows through that. Policy like campus carry, where 80% of the state's opposed to it. These are the policies we get because of this. So quickly, think about what it would be like if everybody voted. Think what it would be like if 90% of the people voted and they really had a chance to weigh in on who their elected officials were. Think about what policies we would have on health care, on living wages, on campus carry. It would be different, wouldn't it?
Yep.
It'd be vastly different. So along with Secretary Gardner, we've been working on this for a long time with several other people. I see Representative Jonathan Wallace just walked in the room. We are proposing redistricting that does not give an advantage to incumbents of either party and doesn't give consideration to political affiliation. We're not going to dilute people's voices. We're not going to discriminate against people based on what party they are so that everybody can be heard. Today we have a hearing on those principles. Today we have a hearing on what?
Finally.
Finally. And this is just part of the process. So we need you to tune in today. We need you to hear what the experts say when the experts have a chance to give testimony before the Georgia House Committee on reapportionment on what would make a fair map and make a fair system. It's 3 p.m. today. You can go to Fair Districts Georgia, GA, Fair Districts GA. Check out their Facebook, their Twitter feed. Check out Common Cause Facebook and Twitter feed. You find a link to the live stream. You can go to my Facebook page. I'm David Dreyer from House District 59, or go to my Twitter feed, at @DDreyer. We will put a link of that up. And please watch it all. If you're interested, you can learn a lot today, and this is the first step in making a big difference. Did you have anything? Okay. Thank you so much.
I just want to remind you that there will be some real information for you to use with your legislators today at the meeting. I mean, most of you are a member of some citizen organizations, but we will hear from Common Cause, from the League of Women Voters, from various citizens who have had experience, from the ACLU, and an attorney who has actually been involved in writing some of the amicus briefs in the cases around the country. So I think we have some expertise. Clearly, the issue for us is to educate ourselves, educate our friends, pay attention to the census, and the next redistricting that happens after 2020. We are going to be vigilant, and we are going to be looking for some transparency and some new kinds of rules. But thank you for your interest in this. Your energy is going to carry us forward. The meeting this afternoon is going to be in another small room. It's probably going to be just about like this. So I encourage you, 4:15, and there is a spillover room, 406, which I believe they will have it set up so that you can watch. But please take this video, take it into your communities and use it to educate your folks so they talk to their legislators and say, gee, don't you think it's something we should do something to reform this? Everybody thinks it's a good idea except for us who are elected. So that tells you something.
Right.
Thank you so much for being here.